Hello and welcome back to Humanizer, where I'm converting the free and open source MPFB2 character creator from Blender into Godot. So this time I won't be making any code changes. I just want to demonstrate the difference between pre-generating the clothing shape keys versus calculating them at runtime, and basically why I need to revert it to making them all individually. And then next time I will actually implement those changes into the project. So the main issue is the file size. If I go to the generated assets, you can see that the larger outfits can be up to, so this is 83.9 megabytes for the pre-generated mesh, and then just the import mesh is only 757 kilobytes, so it's not even a meg. So just the file size alone is a problem for my repository. So this generated assets folder is already 1.4 gigs, and I only generated like 10 outfits, so, and I have a limited amount of bandwidth on my GitHub repository, so this isn't like that big of a deal just for the actual character creator project. But see, the male worksuit is, the mesh is 94.6 megs, so, and then the import mesh is only 822, so it's like 100 times bigger. And basically I don't have enough bandwidth because I want to add a bunch of outfits to IDKlol, my RPG, so basically I just can't have all of these gigantic clothing files. So that's the first issue. So you may be wondering why I would pre-generate the shape keys, and first of all, I didn't actually know that it would make such large files, but mostly because it is the most efficient way at runtime to generate a bunch of people. So you can see I have 100 here, and it didn't take that long. So I've randomized their age and race so that all the clothing should have slightly different geometries. And this works really well if you only have a couple different outfits. But the problem is that it has to store that 80 gig file on your graphics card. So basically, if you're going to have like a team game and there's only a couple different outfits, like an FPS, or if you're going to have a bunch of armies and they're all wearing the same clothes, then it probably will be the most efficient to just pre-generate the clothing like this. But in an RPG where you might have hundreds of outfits, this will obviously be less efficient because it's very unlikely that there's going to be a bunch of different characters even wearing the same outfit. So, but of course that means that all of the shape keys and shading will have to be generated for each human at runtime, which is going to slow it down. So basically you'll have to make that decision for yourself. I will leave the generate shape keys for the clothes file in the project because the eyes and teeth and tongue will be pre-generated and added to the human mesh. But for the clothing, I will just make it calculate at runtime. So if you're interested in the technical details, I have an empty test scene here. It just has the camera and the lighting, and before I run it, we're at 2.22 gigs on the GPU and 4.8 on the memory, the RAM. So now if I run this scene, so the RAM is at 4.93 and the GPU is at 2.45. So that's just the baseline 3D scene. So now if I add one of the pre-generated clothing meshes to the scene, and you can see we have all of the shape keys available. So if I run that, on the memory it's gone up to 5.02, which isn't that much, and on the GPU, in the video RAM, it's gone up to 2.72, so that's like 0.4 of a gig, 0.3 of a gig, which is pretty significant. Now if I duplicate this and several times and just modify the shape keys so you can see that they're different. So now we have some different shape keys here, and if I run it again, the GPU is still at 2.72, and that's because Godot uses resource pooling for the video card, so all of these share the same, they reference the same resource on the video card, so you can add a bunch of duplicates and it doesn't add much more to either your RAM or your GPU. But the issue is when you start adding a bunch of different outfits. So now if I add a second outfit, you can see that the GPU is now at 3.25 gigs, and if I add a third, it's still at 3.25, so basically now it's at 3.91, so you can see that each outfit significantly increases the amount of video RAM, and it's just a matter of, so I could probably have like 30 outfits total before this maxed out, and most people probably have more than 6.5 gigs of video RAM, but either way, you definitely don't want to use that much. So what I'll have to do, instead of using the pre-generated shape keys, is I'll have to use the basis mesh, and so I increased the grow value on the material, which is why it has the gaps between the faces, because this doesn't have the shading set, so it just breaks apart when you add the grow. So I wrote a function to loop over the clothes child nodes, and using the mesh shader, which I wrote previously, this uses the surface tool to generate the normals and tangents, and then add it back to the main mesh. So this will generate the shading, and so you can see now it's smooth. And of course you'll also have to calculate the Shapekey positions, but this is good for now. So now you can see it's only at 3.2 and 4.8 on the RAM. So now if I add the additional outfits, like I did for the pre-generated meshes, and I'll move them to the close node. So you can see it doesn't take too long to shade the individual, and the GPU has only gone up by about 0.3 gigs, so this is much less, and the memory is about the same. So now this they won't share the same resource, so if you have duplicate, the same outfit but on a different person, so it'll have different shape keys, it won't share the resource, but you would have to have like 100 copies of the same outfit for it to be equitable in the memory. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be the best way to do it. It's just going to take longer to generate the scenes, and whenever you render a new area, it'll have to calculate all the clothes. But I think that's the best way to do it. So next time I will implement the changes into the clothes maker. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching and have a great day.